If you've watched any of my jig building videos, you might remember this blank. In my small stock jointing jig video, I jointed these 4 pieces of wood and milled them all to the same exact size. And then in my lathe centering jig video, I went ahead and put the cross mark on the end so that this will fit nicely into the spur center of my lathe. I'm going to go ahead and mount this on the lathe. My plans for this blank are really simple. I've never done inside out turning before, and I want to attempt it. I'm going to go ahead and turn a small section out of this blank, and then I'm going to remove the tape, rotate these 4 pieces of wood 180 degrees, glue them together, and when that dries, I'll then shape the outside of the blank. With a turning like this, you're turning a lot of air, and if you don't pay close attention, you do what I did here. You get a little too far out, catch a corner, and chip it off. I'm not going to worry a whole lot about this because this piece will be turned 180 degrees. It'll be the inside of my turning, and I'm also not going to worry about it because this is more of a learning experience for me, and whatever I learn from this piece, I hope to use in the next one that I do to make it even better. So I'm going to fire the lathe back up and take a little bit more out of the center, and then we're going to flip them around, glue them up, and see where we go from there. All right, I'm happy with how this blank looks. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead, sand, and finish this interior because I won't get a chance to do it later. Then I'll disconnect the tape, flip each piece 180 degrees, glue them up, and once the glue dries, we'll turn the outside of this blank. I've taken my lathe all the way down to the lowest possible speed. I've got some mineral oil and wax, same type of thing Carl Jacobson uses, and I'm just going to basically run through the grits. I probably will sand down to about 400 on this, and then I'll put a little finish on it. I won't make you guys watch the sanding process. I'll come back when it's sanded. I've sanded my blank down. It looks pretty good. And I'm going to just use a little bit of crystal coat to put a little finish in here. And we'll get this off the lathe, get it cut apart, rotate it, and glued up and ready for final turning. Now the trick is just to turn all of your blanks in. So I'm going to put them back the way they were for a second. There we go. So you can see that's the way that the blank was. And then I'm just basically going to take and twist each of these 180 degrees. And now what you have is you have your blank. I'll glue them together, but you have your blank with a nice hollow segment in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this up, let it dry, and then I'll come back and we'll turn a design on the outside of this piece. When you rotate your blank 180 degrees and glue it up, you want to be very careful to line up the parts where you removed the material. One other thing that I'll mention, and I learned this the hard way, is when you do glue it up, watch the glue on the inside when you get close to the inside areas, because when I clamp this, I have glue squeeze out on the inside of my finished part. So luckily this is a learning piece, and I won't do that again, but bear that in mind when you glue a piece up. Don't overdo it on the glue. It will squeeze inside as well. Now what I want to do is get this chucked back up on my lathe, and let's turn an outside design. Be very careful when you re-chuck your piece to try to get it balanced between the headstock and the tailstock. If you don't get it centered properly, you'll be off on your outside dimensions, and your hole will not be centered in your piece. I'm going to start out by just truing my piece up, and then I'll come back and add some shape to it. All right, looks like it's pretty well trued up. A couple little areas there to clean out. I think I'll get my spindle gouge and give it a little bit of a design. Well, for my first attempt, I'm relatively pleased. I know it could look a lot better, but I really didn't have any plan for what I was going to do. I just started playing around with the spindle gouge. I think I'll go ahead and sand it down, put a little finish on it, and just see how it looks. I won't make you guys watch the sanding, but I will come back when it's time for the finish. I just finished sanding. I went through 400. I think it looks pretty good. I did a nice job lining it up because my openings appear to be centered. What I want to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put a little more friction polish on there, the same friction polish that I used on the inside, but I am going to turn the camera off and apply the polish without the camera because when it hits these little openings, it tends to splatter, and I don't want it to get all up on my camera. I've applied my friction polish. I really like how it looks. This has been a fun first project. Here's my finished piece. It's not all that beautiful. It's not that great of a design, but once again, this was really just an opportunity for me to attempt inside-out turning and see what I thought of it. I really enjoyed making this piece. I can definitely see me doing some more inside-out turning in the future. This was a lot of fun, but I guarantee you there's two things I'll do. Number one, I will cut out a little bit more from the center of the piece before I rotate the pieces to get a larger opening here. And the second thing that I'll do is I'll probably sketch out a design first so that I can have something a little more aesthetic. One thing I will note is when you're sanding, or actually when you're polishing with your paper towel, this basically turns your paper towel into dust. It's kind of sharp. Watch your fingers and watch your towel. I would really like to thank everyone for taking time to watch this video. I had a great time learning a little about inside-out turning. I hope my attempts and I hope my mistakes will help you to attempt some inside-out turning and do a better job than I did. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Please like this video, and I would absolutely love to hear your comments.